For the first time since the years preceding the American Civil War, the United States has fewer than 2 million operational farms. This map highlights the physical toll recorded in the 2022 Census of Agriculture. Over a 5-year period, 141,733 farms ceased operations. That translates to the loss of 20.1 million acres of farmland, an area roughly the size of Maine simply dissolving from the agricultural map. When an industry sheds operators and shrinks its physical footprint at this speed, the standard economic diagnosis is terminal decline. But looking at this dual-axis chart reveals a deep contradiction. While the downward line shows total farms plummeting, the line tracking agricultural revenue rockets in the opposite direction. Over that same 5-year window, total production value spiked by 40%, reaching $543 billion. So how exactly does an industry generate record-breaking wealth while simultaneously wiping out over 140,000 of its own operators? The U.S. Secretary of Agriculture Tom Vilsack reviewed the latest census figures with a stark assessment. He described the massive drop in farm numbers as a wake-up call, explicitly warning policymakers that the country is on a trajectory toward larger, fewer farms, a path rural communities cannot afford to stay on. The census data suggests this isn't just an inevitable demographic shift, but a reflection of a trend that has accelerated throughout the century. The daily financial reality for modern independent farmers is suffocating. They are currently facing the highest overall production expenses on record. This chart breaks down the extreme spikes. By 2022, fertilizer costs shot up 35% and hired labor climbed 33%. Now the trap closes. Farmers are caught between an oligopoly of massive seed corporations and a monopsony of corporate buyers. Because farmers have zero leverage to negotiate prices for inputs or prices for their yields, their profit margins have thinned to pennies, leaving them entirely exposed to market shocks. When you only make a tiny fraction of a cent on every dollar of revenue, the only mathematical way to survive is to produce an astronomical volume. You have to rely on economies of scale. This relentless drive for volume traces back to the 1970s, when Agriculture Secretary Earl Butz explicitly instructed American farmers to get big or get out. Reaching that necessary scale requires buying inputs in massive bulk and deploying incredibly expensive, specialized autonomous technology to shave costs down to the microcent. Mid-sized farms simply cannot afford that entry fee. Operations under 500 acres are bleeding out rapidly. Today, 74% of U.S. farms generate less than $50,000 in annual sales, forcing the vast majority of farm families to rely on off-farm jobs to survive. The modern agricultural system rewards massive scale by design, rendering the traditional mid-sized farm mathematically unviable. Behind the statistics on lost acreage is the reality of the people being pushed out of the industry. The pressure of consolidation falls heavily on marginalized demographics. Between 2017 and 2022, Black-owned farms experienced a devastating 13% contraction, nearly double the national average. At the same time, the broader farming population is aging out. The average age of a U.S. farmer is now 58 years old. Younger generations are looking at the initial capital requirements and realizing there is no realistic financial path to take over the family business. With these financial barriers to entry, farming is becoming reserved for those who already have massive corporate backing or inherit the scale needed to survive. So when 140,000 farms vanish, their land and market share don't evaporate, they are absorbed. This chart illustrates extreme wealth concentration. A tiny 6% of farms now controls 78%